Hello guys, namaste and welcome to my channel. So today I will be going through some of the mistakes that I made in January setup of the tall elephant planner, and also I'm going to mention what went well and what did not, so that I do not carry over the mistakes to February setup. So if you have not watched my video of January setup and you would like to know more about that, you can go and watch that video. Links will be in the description below. So let me get started. So before going ahead, I just want to mention today is the 30th of January. So just one more day for January to end. I'm going to start off with the mistakes first, and the very first mistake I did was in the habit tracker. As you can see, I was so excited to use this new planner that I ended up writing down too many habits, and I admit I was not able to keep up with all the habits. The only habits I could keep up with consistently was meditation, was Wim Hof method, and exercise, and a little bit of reading. I would like to mention here that all of these habits were new habits that I was trying to develop in this year. In the sense, I never followed any of these habits in 2021. So I'm kind of proud of myself that I was able to consistently keep up with meditation, Wim Hof method, and exercise. Though exercise, I was not that very consistent. I have left out a few days, as you can see, but there was a reason for that. And I didn't do it out of laziness or out of this thing, except for the 28th and 29th. I'm going to come back to those 2 days later. But I think I've been pretty consistent with the rest of the habits, considering that this is the first time I'm doing those habits. And I want to mention here, guys, that it definitely gets easier with time. But at the same time, building too many habits all at once does not work, and I realized that it was a mistake. And I'm telling, this is something that did not work for me. If it did not work for me, doesn't mean it will not work for you. Please follow your own inner voice, your own intuition, and do what is best for you. Lesson learned, guys. In February, I'm not going to be jotting down too many habits just because I'm too excited to fill up the planner. And I'm going to keep it realistic and jot down only a few habits that I know I can consistently keep up with. And one more thing is, I'm going to be starting my college from February, I think after 15 days or so. And so it's going to be little difficult for me to keep up with too many habits, definitely not realistic. And so yeah, lesson learned. And as I mentioned, first step towards any habit, towards building any habit, is the hardest. It definitely gets easier with time. And once you do it consistently for a few days and you don't do it on one day, you're definitely going to feel that something is missing. So first step is always the hardest. Okay guys, so I'm going to mention a few resources that I used for meditation, Wim Hof, and exercise. For Wim Hof method, I used this 11 minutes video that said, I think, guided Wim Hof breathing technique. I'm going to put the link of that in the description below. And if you don't know what Wim Hof method is, please check that out. Lot of resources online where you can get the information. For exercise, I use this app called, I think, Women's Fitness. I'm just going to cue it here. Disclaimer, this is not a brand deal. So this is the Women's Fitness app, and I've been using the full body workout challenge, and it has a set of exercises for every day. Day one starts easy, and then slowly it gets tougher and tougher with each day. And you can also track the calories you burnt, and you can track the days you exercised on the calendar. It also has many categories like abs beginner, flat stomach, thigh workout, toned arms, splits training, etc. Coming to meditation, so initially I decided to meditate during the night time before going to bed, because I thought everything is going to be quiet, everybody is going to be asleep, there's going to be less noise, less distraction. But the thing with me is I fall asleep quite quickly, like just I hit the pillow and I'm already asleep. So every time I tried to meditate at night, I would doze off. So it did not work for me. I think up to one, I tried for the first few days, I think up to sixth or something, and I kind of began to lose the motivation. So what I did was, I decided the next day from 8th onwards or so, I don't remember the dates that well, but one of the days, after a few days, I decided that I would, meditate in the morning after my exercise, and that worked for me pretty well. So I'm new to meditation. As I said, I never meditated regularly. I hardly did. So I was trying to download an app or something where I can, have these guided meditation sessions, and I came across this app called Serenity. Bear in mind, guys, none of this, be it women's fitness app or this app Serenity, this is not some brand deal, and I'm not promoting them. I'm just sharing with you guys the resources that worked for me. So you please follow what works for you. I'm not promoting anything here. I'm just sharing what worked for me and what I found helpful. So I'm going to queue in the Serenity app here. Course level 1 basics is free, where you get 7 sessions. Level 2 onwards, 1 session unlocks once in 6 days. Moving forward, I'm going to explain my experiences with this app. It did work pretty well for me. So I ended up buying the full version for 1050 rupees for 6 months, and there are also other payment options in this app, and you can check it out. We also have meditation for kids, for quitting smoking, for social anxiety, for the self, for self-esteem, etc. And the app also helps you to track your sessions and your progress. Very first session of level 1, I had an experience, like I think the first session, it was mainly, one part of it was focusing on your breathing, and then the second part of it was just letting your mind go wherever it wants to and just watch it with curiosity. And in the middle of focusing on my breathing, I had this unique experience that I had never had before, and I can just describe it as my mind for just a second or two became very still. Like I was not thinking about anything. Generally in my head, if it's a certain day, I keep thinking about my schedules, but that moment my mind just went blank. I couldn't remember my schedules, nor could I remember my past, nor the future. I was not worrying about future. It was like I completely forgot everything for 2 seconds. And suddenly it felt so good. I felt like, I felt so free at that moment, and I felt like a kind of joy was lying beneath me, within me, and it would erupt any second. The high vibrating joy or something. I really don't know how to put this in words, guys, because this was a unique experience I had. I've never had this before. So yeah, so that what has kept me going for the rest of the days. I think I've never had that experience, and it was interesting. I had it at the very first session, and I think 24th, which was that Sunday, 23rd, I really had free time. I did not have any classes or anything as such that day, and I had this huge urge to meditate continuously. So I kept meditating for every 10 minutes. I mean, the app, it has 10 minutes, 10 to 11 minute sessions, each of them. So I meditated for 10 minutes, then I would take a break, again meditate for 10 minutes, and I did that multiple times in the morning. And then in the evening, I played continuously, like, those 10-minute sessions, one after the other. I played them and I sat meditating for more than an hour. And at that moment, suddenly a kind of sadness hit me, and this was just the opposite of what happened in the very first session. I just felt so kind of depressed, so sad, without any reason. There was no reason for me to be sad as such, but it happened, and I was like, oh my god, what is happening? Why is this happening? And I just stopped meditating at that point, and the sadness, it continued for half an hour or so before waning off. So I started looking up online to see what exactly was happening, and I found this guy who has explained this really well. I'm going to put the link of that also in the description below. So if you guys, anybody who's been meditating, has this experience, don't worry, he speaks about that. Please go through that video. He's done a very good job of explaining why that happens. Okay guys, so I was just checking the highlights of the month that I've written, and it was on the 12th that I had that experience that I just spoke about in the meditation. And on 15th there was another experience where, okay, each of those meditation sessions end with gratitude. So she asks you, the person who is guiding the meditation asks you to think of 3 things that you're grateful for. And incidentally, that was Sankranti. I only realized that later, a festival which is kind of associated with the sun. And I coincidentally thought of the sun that day, and I thought of, like, what would we do without the sun energy? Without the sun, the plants couldn't live, and without plants, we wouldn't get our food. And oh my god, the sun, it is what causes this morning, and it gives us this light energy, vitamin D. I was thinking, the sun is giving us so much of free energy that is so valuable, and how come we didn't even think of that? Or how come I particularly didn't think of that? I have been taking so many things for granted, and I think we all do. We all take so many things for granted, be it the plants which gives us oxygen, be it the sun that provides the energy that is needed for the plants to live, and indirectly we too need that energy to live. We couldn't survive without the sun, could we? And it's so amazing that we take small things for granted, and I feel like kind of the COVID which happened in the last 2 years, and which is still, there, but obviously it has waned down. But I feel COVID has taught us very important thing, that is the importance of breath. We take our own breath, that air, for granted, without which we couldn't live. We take water for granted. Like, what would we do without the water? We couldn't wash the plates, we couldn't take bath, we couldn't wash clothes. Again, the plants again need water to live, so without that we couldn't live. And what not, we couldn't even flush our toilet without water. So literally we take the smallest of things for granted, and I think we should not. We need to be more grateful. So this is the recap section, guys, and I have already filled some of it as and when it happened, because I didn't want to forget about it later and not fill this up, especially some of the important lessons that I learned. So coming to the meal tracker here, so they had a couple of options given here. Let me show some other months, but yeah, like this. So they had this healthy meal, they had cheat meal, they had takeaway, fine dining, and something special written. But I put a washi tape over that, and I made just 3 spreads because so many options is too much for me. So I just made 3 options, which is healthy food, junk food, and sugars. And what this spread has taught me is, these days where you can see sugars, junk, right, and these obviously, These were the days when my mom was not at home. And these were the days where I had to cook for myself, and every time she was not at home, I would fall back to junk food and I would fall back to sugars. But when she was there at home with me, wow, just look at it. I hardly craved junk food and I hardly craved, sugars, because she cooks so damn well that I don't even crave all of these things. And one more thing, I have noticed that when, I think I've written it down in the highlights. Yeah, you can see what I've written there. So when my mom is at home, she cooks so healthy, she cooks so delicious food that I have high energy throughout the day. I don't crave junk and sugars, and this has really made me grateful for my mom. Like, honestly, I have to admit, I don't have the best relationship with my parents, but this section, I'm so grateful for my mom, and this section was something that made me realize that I think stay at home moms do not get enough credit for all that they do, and honestly, we should be really grateful for them. Thank you, Mom. I want to mention here that on 28th, my mom was not at home, and I did end up ordering from McDonald's, and I had my dinner, and honestly, it did not feel good. Like, I felt so, what to say, just it didn't satisfy me. The meal did not satisfy me. It was just something I craved for my tongue, but my stomach did not like it. I kind of felt like, like I had bloated or something. And I'm going to mention that I did eat McDonald's on 23rd as well, but this did not happen on 23rd, but 28th, clearly I did not feel good about it. Not like my stomach got upset or something, but just it was not satisfying like my mom's food. And that day and the next day, I felt so lethargic, and I did not feel like eating at all. The next day I had no appetite, and I learned a huge lesson from this. I was like, I'm not going to order outside. If I'm too lazy to cook, I'm just going to get some fruits and eat them, but I'm not going to order especially junk like McDonald's just because for my tongue, because clearly a lot happened. See, I did not fill up my planner also on 28th and 29th because I was like so damn lethargic. I even had a slight headache after eating McDonald's on 28th. I don't know why that happened, but I learned a huge lesson. And today is actually the 30th, and today I decided, and yesterday also I decided I'm just going to eat some veggies and fruits. I'm going to have a partial fast. I'm not going to take in any rice or wheat or chapati or anything like that. I'm just going to have a partial fast and just eat fruits and veggies. And when I did that, like today I have a really good energy. Actually, I've not filled up anything. I'm going to do it at the end of the day, but lesson learned, I'm not going to order any McDonald's or any junk just for my tongue's craving. Okay, coming to this spread, so if you have seen my January setup, you saw that I had converted 2 rows into 4 boxes and totally 8 glasses of water as such. But when I look at it, like it's so, I cannot make out like if I'm making any progress in my water intake or not. All that I can see is just tick marks here, and it's not very clear. So I added another row over here. So total glass of water, and I have written the total glass of water, and I know it's going downhill. Sorry guys. And yeah, another thing I'm really proud of is I have not indulged in any impulsive habits that I generally used to. There were, I think, moments here and there when my parents were not at home that I wanted to indulge in them, but somehow I kept my willpower strong. I did not, and I'm proud of that. And yeah, I've added 2 more spreads here, which is woke up and slept, and not much progress in that area, nor the house of cell phone. And I really need to buck up here. So there were certain times where I reacted, in anger or frustration, or there were times when I was like, too worried about what others would think of me, that I ended up doing something that I shouldn't have. So what I did here was, whenever I felt that anger or frustration, or whenever I was mad at myself, I just dumped my thoughts here on this page. And most importantly, what I did was, I wrote down the lesson that I learned from that experience, so that I do not focus on the negativity of that experience, rather, I focus on the lesson learned. So that way, I think mistakes are not a mistake if you learn something from that. There were two blank pages towards the end of the January spreads, and I converted that to little things that matter spread. So, what I jotted down here was any baby steps that I took towards the person that I wanted to be, or towards overcoming any fears. I think here it particularly mentions overcoming my stage fear, and the little baby step progress that I made towards it. It's not that big, but I think the journey to 1,000 miles begins with a single step, right? So every step does count, and this kind of keeps me motivated to do better and better. Also, like in this particular session, I did not sing the best, but the thing was, I sang fearlessly in my music class. So I generally get scared. I'm too conscious about what others think while I'm singing, but that particular day I just sang fearlessly, and I did not care what others thought. I did not sing the best, to be honest, but instead of focusing on that oh my god, others sang better than me, I did not sing as well as them, I chose to see the positive, which was I sang fearlessly. Does not matter how I sang, but I sang without any fear, without any concern about what others thought about me, and I think that's a huge step towards overcoming my stage fear. I loved this section of happiness jar and emotional tracker. So I think the happiness jar, I realized that almost everything that has made me happy were the little things. It was not something huge or something this thing, it was just the smallest of the small things. And I realized that each and every day we can actually be grateful for something, and there's something to be happy about each and every day. We just need to see happiness, just find happiness in smallest of things and be grateful for them every single day. So for the goal setting section in February, I'm going to be making a slight change in that I will not be writing down goals like this. I will fill up which goal, which part of that goal came true by the end of the month. Why? Because things don't go as planned always. And okay, just to give you guys an example, here I've written see, notice abundance everywhere, which didn't happen quite often, to be honest. But what happened was, one of the financial goals that I had written for the year came true. Let me go back to that page. So yeah, here was the yearly goal section, and I had written here create more passive income streams, and I did manage to create another passive income stream in January. So I think this I will fill up at the end of the month. Like, I'm just going to write down any of the goals that did happen that month. And this, I initially thought, I would color it according to the percentage that came true or something, but it's not very clear for me. Maybe I was really confused on how to use this page. So now I've figured it out. I'm going to leave this blank during the setup. By the end of the month, I'm just going to write down any part of the goal or any of the goals that came true, any of the yearly goals that did come true. So my daily spread, I'm going to blur it out. Sorry guys, because I've written a lot of personal stuff here. But what I did in the daily spread was, I would write things that went well on that particular day, and then things to improve, because I have kept this planner exclusively for my personal development. So in that aspect, the things that went well and things to improve. And in the important note sections at the end of the page, at the end of each week actually, to be precise, I noted down the lessons learned as well as the highlights of that particular week. So that's some of the mistakes I made and the lessons I learned in the January spread. So my next video coming up tomorrow will be my setup of February monthly spread. Stay tuned for that, and thank you so much for watching this video, guys. Namaste.